BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
I know people in couples, you'll have your song. I have a song with my dog.
My love must be a kind of blind love.
And I associate it really strongly with him.
I can't see anyone but you.
For people who don't have kids particularly, I think often it's difficult to understand the relationship that you have with a rescue dog, where you are the only person in its life, or you're the first person in its life anyway, to treat it well. The bond that you have with them is extraordinary.
Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy or bright. I only have eyes for you.
My name is Jess Farcox. I'm a lecturer in the Department of English at the University of Bristol, and I've been a singer for 25 years. My dog was a miniature Jack Russell, so very, very tiny, only 6 kilos. His name was Pico, and he had cancer, and the tumour pushed one of his eyes out of his head, and so he lost the eye. He was on a lot of medication, and he would often be in a lot of pain, and lots of operations. So he would come and ask for comfort. One of the things that would work to get him to sleep would be to hold him and slow dance around the room, and I would sing, "I Only Have Eyes for You," and he would go to sleep. The only thing that reliably worked was holding him and singing that song. Because he'd lost the eye, I used to sing "I Only Have I for You." Just to kind of personalise it for him, I suppose. We had him for 5 years, so I have sung that song a lot of times. It's almost exactly a year since he died. I had imagined him being put down as holding him in my arms while he died and singing to him. And actually in the event, I was so choked that I couldn't do it. This week has been the first time I've been able to listen to it without crying. It immediately triggers, I should have the dog in my arms and I should be very carefully waltzing him around the room. They don't have much of an understanding of the future or the past, I don't think, but they know what death is and they know what love is. And for me, this song was the kind of soundtrack to midwifing him through so many horrible illnesses and so many operations and all sorts of horrible, painful things that, I couldn't really help him with in a meaningful way. But the one thing I could do was to get him to go to sleep. There'll be a point towards the end where I would sort of stop and check. Has he dropped off? Is he awake? And he'd be gone, and I'd kind of very quietly just kind of just to finish it for myself. And then, okay, then put him in the basket.
My name's Chris Deeran. I'm a journalist and I sing in a band called Fat Cops. I guess the song has always been around, floating in the atmosphere with that incredible shimmering charm that it has. I probably first knew it through that Flamingos version with its wonderful shabop shabops. Also the Art Garfunkel version, which went to #1, and his inimitable soaring vocals. And I think it occupies an unusual space in the musical firmament, if you like. It's quite hard to think of another song that was written so long ago, 1934, for the movie Dames, and that has survived in quite the way that I Only Have Eyes for You has. There have been so many versions of it over the years, so many different styles. The very first recording of it is quite a jaunty, sort of arch version for the movie.
An optical illusion too. Are the stars out?
You go through the decades and it seems to have been adapted for as many musical styles as you can imagine.
For you,
I love the fact that the song emerged from the Tin Pan Alley scene, which was basically a single block of buildings on Manhattan's West 28th Street, where you had this extraordinary, bustling scene of songwriters who would just turn out classic after classic. Many of the standards that we know from that era actually started as Tin Pan Alley songs. I Only Have Eyes for You came from that scene, from pens of the composer Harry Warren and the lyricist Al Dubin, and I think Warren especially won 3 Oscars and was a real hit machine. It carries with it, I think, that sense of Tin Pan Alley. It fits into an era that just gave us so many extraordinary melodies, so many extraordinary lyrics, and that explosion of songwriting ability that certainly defined the music of the era, but still echoes through a lot of the songs and music that we hear today.
And I only have eyes for you.
Hello, everybody out there. I'm Terry Johnson of the original Flamingos, writer, arranger, and producer. I produced all the songs that we did for our 4 albums from 1956 through 1961, and I've been recording and producing since. Are the stars out tonight? When I got with the Flamingos, which was in 1956, end of 57, going to 1958, George Goldner, the president of N Records, which was our label, set us down and he said, I want to do an album and follow the steps that the Platters have started. He said, because they're doing music that crosses over from the black market to the white market. I'm an arranger also, so I took the music to our hotel and I played around with it on my guitar, and I would call the guys down. They would rehearse with me, and I would show them what I wanted them to do. And it was one song I just couldn't feel. I had to stop and say, let's take a break. I need a night to do this last song. I can't feel it. And so I took it to the hotel. I had a habit of laying in my bed, practicing on my guitar with my guitar on my chest. And I was practicing, trying to find what I wanted to hear. And I fell asleep with my guitar on my chest. And I had a dream. And in this dream, I know it came from God. I heard this music swirling. And then all of a sudden, I could hear through the swirl, I could hear the music chords. And I heard, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't make it out, but my fingers was right where it was supposed to be, in the same key of what the dream was, and I just played it, and it came up perfect, and I liked it. So I called the guys at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, come to my room. I said, I've got the last song, and it's fantastic. I said, it's beautiful. I got it from God. Come on down to my room. And they were like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, come now. Because there's no other way. We didn't have cassette players or little recorders that we could do it, so I needed it while it was fresh in my mind. So they grumbled and came to my room, oh man, and I played it for them, and they looked at me like I was nuts. But I said, come on, here's your part, Jake, sing this part, Tommy, sing this part. And everybody sang their parts, and they were kind of grumbling while they were doing it. They were tired. After I finished it and showed them exactly what I wanted, played the chords, gave them the harmony, it was ringing, and I said, okay, how you like it? And 3 of them said, I don't like it. It's just terrible. What are you doing? It's supposed to be a beautiful love song. I said, this is the song. It came in a dream. That's a sign. We went into the studio the next day. I had the musicians, and I just showed them each the other guitar, showed them his part that I wanted him to play, the piano player and the drums and the bass, and had the guys to do the harmonies. After it was over, I said, the musician said, hey, that's pretty nice. I like what you did to this song. But the guys looked at me like, it's terrible. So when George Golden came back a few days later, and we were at the office, and George said, "Terry Johnson, come in here." So I walked in with my chest out, like I knew he was going to just congratulate me. He said, "What the hell is this? Why'd you murder this song?" I said, "What do you mean murdered?" He said, "This is garbage." I tell you what, you don't have my permission to go into that studio without me or Richard anymore. You ruined this song. He said, "But I'll put it on Flamingo Serenade just because I got to try to get my money back." It broke my heart. The album came out, and Goodnight Sweetheart was supposed to be the release. But when all the DJs listened to the Only Have Eyes for You, I'll say within 2 weeks, it was on fire. It was just spreading like wildfire. And it still is our biggest song that we've ever recorded. About a month and a half later, after the song was really, really, really big, George Golden called me in his office and said, "Terry," he said, "I just want to let you know that anytime you want to go in that studio, you have carte blanche. I apologize to you. I think what you did was fantastic. As a matter of fact, I want you to keep recording songs like that. That song is a smash for us." We're still getting royalties for it, nice royalties. It's been in movies, on TV, radio. It's still going big.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So Series 2, Episode 19. The episode is called I Only Have Eyes for You. And they use that song and the Flamingos arrangement of that song to create the sense in the viewer that the ghosts that the story is about are about to possess two more characters. So you hear it and it feels sinister. But it lends itself to it so well. I think because the arrangement is very echoey and murky, and also because the backing vocal is very slightly out of tune. That shwap shwap sound, it's very, very slightly out of tune. And the echo makes the dissonance greater. And so you can read that kind of slightly menacing, what's about to happen, something's about to happen, into it very easily, I think.
There's a great scene in this movie, A Bronx Tale. And I think it really relates what this song is about and really does to people when they're listening to it. It's about a teenager growing up in the Bronx and him having to deal with the distractions of, whether to be involved in the mafia, whether to just have his life as a teenager, but he can't help but fall in love with this girl. And it's sort of a forbidden fruit because he's Italian and she's black. He sees her in his high school, and there's a sort of doo-wop group in the hallway singing this song. And once he catches a glimpse of his crush, you hear the lyrics come in, and everything is in slow motion. And you can see he can't take his gaze away from this girl. He follows her all the way outside, and he watches her, and his friends are talking to him and engaging in other things, and he is totally fixed on this one girl. It's just such a great moment, and I think this song is so great at that. Just is taking you into another world, this sort of feeling it gives you. My name is Louis Cruz. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a music theorist and composer. It's almost as if I've heard the song before, and that's one of the great things about this song is it seems to be attached to memory in a lot of its uses. I think it evokes a sense of nostalgia. I think the genius of this song is the most simple thing, really, is that there is a C major chord going on from the beginning to the end of this song. It's the sound you keep hearing, dum 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 dum. You can hear the pedal chord in the piano, and then the other harmonies come in on the guitar. And so the guitar is changing its chords constantly, but the piano is just playing this one chord over and over again. And so you have this sort of dual sound, these competing ideas of one chord versus many chords underneath constantly changing. It's inseparable from what the song is doing and telling us of, the fixation not being able to get away from the object of your affection. And underneath it, there's other chord changes going on. There's C major to B flat major going back and forth, yet this C major chord is pervasive. At least when I hear it, it's impossible to separate those ideas of, I only have eyes for you. I have this fixated gaze. I can't get away from looking at you. Well, the piano can't get away from playing this C major chord. So I think there's a direct relation there because there's so much going on underneath that. How can one chord be played over and over again and not sound too repetitive? Everything is really echoey. There's a lot of layers of instruments playing. When it gets into the chorus, the music takes a step down. You, dear. And just in that spot, everything seems to blur. You can barely hear that C major chord, but you know it's still there. There's other chords going on underneath. There's the singer, main singer, and the background singers all singing together, and it's really hard to pinpoint what the notes are. We get a bridge sections, a new section of music we haven't really heard before. I don't know if we're in a garden or on a crowded avenue. That is one of the best uses of space, where you hear this first lyric, I don't know if we're in a garden, and you're waiting, because that's a weird spot to pause on. Or on a crowded avenue. It sort of takes a minute to get there, and it really, again, gives you a moment for this music to just sort of sink in. There's this odd sense of time, this odd sense of resolution. When is the next lyric coming? And usually this is the spot we get that gets used in other media. The Bronx Tale, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's a commercial for Amazon Alexa where there's an old couple dancing in slow motion. So it seems like that's a really important part of the song in terms of just the sound of everything.
This song captures the intoxicating power of falling in love.
My love must be a kind of blind love.
My name is Vivian Franson, and I live in the beauty of Vermont.
I can't see anyone but you.
This song brings me back to 1975. The recording was Art Garfunkel. My boyfriend, my first boyfriend and only boyfriend, let's call him Victor. He had just bought this album, and he invited me to come on over so we could listen to it together.
Are the stars out tonight? I don't know if it's cloudy or bright. I only have eyes for you.
We were college sweethearts. We were wrapped up in each other, totally wrapped up in each other. We sat on his couch and we listened to this song.
But I can't see.
For me, it has a real dreamy and silky feel to it. It gives me the feeling of floating on clouds. And that's what falling in love feels to me, floating in the clouds. To me, it also begs for eye contact when you're listening to this song. And it did become the soundtrack of our love story.
I don't know if we're in our garden.
And it was another way of saying, I adore you and you adore me. And we claimed it as our song. And when the refrain came on, you are here, so am I. We just stared at each other and said, that's exactly how it is with us.
Maybe millions of
later on when we decided we were going to get married, it was probably the easiest decision to make. There were so many decisions to make with a wedding, but for us it was, this song is going to be part of our wedding celebration. And after we exchanged our vows at a seaside church, we just stared with dreamy eyes at each other as we had that first dance as bride and groom while the band played this song. It was just a perfect way to declare our love to the world, and it also became a statement of fidelity, too. I believed we had a happily ever after marriage. It actually was St. Patrick's Day celebration, and neither Victor and I are Catholic or Irish, but we thought it was a great time to have a good, relaxing evening and had a hearty stock of hard liquor and wine on standby, and we're just going to enjoy each other. Things got a little out of hand. Our drinking got a little bit too extreme, and at the end of the evening, Victor said to me, "Vivian, you never ever have to worry about me being with another woman. What you need to worry about is me being with another man." Then after he spilled the beans, he proceeded to stagger up the stairs and passed out in bed. So I was there to try to make sense of this, and I sobered up really fast. After 12 years of marriage, turns out that I was married to a man who turned out to be gay, and my world was turned upside down.
We were approached by friends who wanted to do a series of songs for the charity Tiny Changes, which was set up following the death of Scott Hutchinson. Frightened Rabbit were a very successful Scottish indie band, and their frontman and main songwriter, Scott Hutchison, an incredibly talented guy, but troubled. He sadly took his own life. Our friends asked if we would record some tracks along with other musicians just to help them to raise the profile of that charity and raise the issue of young people's mental health. And they were looking for people to choose a cover version, maybe one that seemed kind of appropriate to the subject, one that was a bit older, maybe something that was unexpected. And Bobby Bluebell, who did the music on our version, and I had both been long-term fans of this song and decided to have a crack at it. I think the song itself immediately takes you to a certain time and place. It has that sort of Cole Porterish feel to it, even if you're not recording it on a piano or in a bow tie and tails, a top hat. It still has something of that era about it. Perhaps it's the lyrics as well, that really unironic use of the word dear. I only have eyes for you, dear. It's not the kind of word you would use very often these days if you were writing a song. And it's just so effortlessly romantic. I often think it's almost the classic end of prom song. You can imagine the young couple slow dancing with each other in that first all-consuming flush of love, absolutely convinced that their feeling's going to last forever. And we all know that heartbreak lies ahead for them, but we want to give them the moment. We've all been there and we've all had our hearts broken afterwards, but this song just seems to capture that moment of hope and optimism and purity of a certain stage in our lives, and I think that's what we try to get across in our recording of it too. We saw it as a sort of dreamscape using modern technology and floating vocals, and it has lots of swooping and bleeping, which I think is very dreamy. It's very modern, but I think it keeps the basic character of the song and that almost spiritual nature that's at the heart of it. Is quite hymnal in a way. These extraordinary chord changes and movements from major to minor and back again. I can't really think of another song that has the kinds of changes in it, and so much of it's in a minor key, and so many pop songs are in a major key, but for some reason this one just works. However you record it, it seems to come out just as a very strong, very listenable and very moving song.
When these situations happen, the so-called straight spouse always gets short shrift. The attention and spotlight is always on the person and how difficult it is for them in their struggles to resolve their sexual orientation. But there's some collateral damage that happens along the way. You know, I know now when I look back, it took a lot of courage for him to tell me that. This is back in 1990, and I thought I was the only woman in the world that ever happened to. And I was at a total loss what to do about it. Felt totally alone, out of control, and I needed the help of a crackerjack therapist to help me along the way. And of course, one of the questions I ask myself now is, so what do I do with our love song? It really evokes strong feelings of love, but also there's profound sadness when I listen to it now. I feel such gratitude that I did fall head over heels in love with Victor, but there's also that real rejection and loss. It will often come on, and I don't turn it off because I've worked so hard to work through trying to tell myself it's all about gratitude. That's what life is all about. Our whole purpose in life is to love and to be loved, and that overrides all the struggles. And so now I can listen to it, and I love listening to it. It's our love song, and no one can take that away from me.
The song is blessed. It's special, and it's not a lot of words. The words are very simple, very understandable, and I believe that's one of the keys to it. It's simple but soulful and meaningful. You know, I only have eyes for you. I don't see anybody else. I don't see the world. Everything around me disappears when you're around me. I only have eyes for you. That's the message. Even today, when I write songs, if I get that feeling in my stomach like I did with Only Have Eyes for You, the song is really exceptional. And when people hear it, they're hearing the music from God. I think it touches their souls.
And I only have eyes for you.